Now, see, I initially was going to do this and just put it on the app. But I feel like everyone needs a shot at figuring out this information. And then on the app and in the sessions, I'll actually teach you how. Okay? It has to do with reality. It has to do with reality of response. Okay? Now, I'm going to start talking about sport requirements and then I'll tie it in to life requirements. Okay? So the requirements of sport are what? They're adverse, they're advanced, right? Like this great photo that I was sent by my boy, Michael Flanagan again. I'm going to put this on the screen and you could read it, and I'm going to talk behind it, okay? Now, not everyone's a skateboarder, not everyone's a gymnast, but it's a great example showing the realities of the requirement of the sport, of the practice, of the art. And as you can see, there's probably not a lot of people that are training for the moments that are the dangerous moments, the adverse moments, and the real moments required of you in the sport that you're participating in. Because again, you don't really get hurt coloring inside the lines. You get hurt when the realities of the sport don't match the tempering of the training that you've put yourself through. Even surface, even keeled, fair weather reps, no stakes. It's no wonder that people aren't prepared for the task at hand. They're not doing enough in the training that's demanding enough for them to be tempered enough for the sport, for the requirements and the realities of the sport. If you train jujitsu, the whole name of the game of jujitsu is for people to take you off of where you're comfortable. So then if you're training 100% in a zone of comfort, what do you think is going to happen when you're put out to sea? There's not a high success rate. And again, there's always exceptions to the rule, and people do thrive in spite of the odds. But statistically, it is always less often. If you want to be good at what you do, you want to be winning more often or as often as you can statistically. Because why? That is reliable. This is how the greats get great. They win more often. Because why? They lose a lot in their training. They go through difficult bits in their training. Or in their come up, they've lost a lot. So then from all those losses, it gives them enough experience, enough data to win more often. Okay? Plain and simple. It's math here, dealing with odds. How can you be successful more often? You train yourself for the reality of the situations that you're going to be facing. You plan accordingly, but you also have the variables in order to respond because why? Nothing ever goes 100% according to plan. Period. So then, you'd imagine that if someone is getting hurt in a certain position, imagine if they train to temper themselves, to prepare themselves for the realities that they may face that position. Okay? And again, it is just to me that the current standard remains for most people. It's like you have a test on Friday. Okay? Here's the requirements of the test. We're not going to prepare you for the test. Write the test. You're going to come back with more injuries. You're going to come back with more losses, right? Yeah, that's how it works. It's like if I just throw you into a simulator and I don't say what it's going to be, you're going to have to acquire a lot of wounds. And that's a part of life. But you don't want to be doing that all the time. That's like learning the hard way every single time. Eventually, it catches up with you. And you got to take a lot of time off, or it takes you out of the game altogether. How do you avoid that? Yes. You prepare for it as best as you can by basically putting yourself into a blender in your training so that when you actually get to the task at hand, it might even be easier because your training was so difficult. Now, I'm not talking about, tempo when it's so hard, but difficult in the fact that it's tempering you for adversity. So that what you may face, you have an answer for it. And if you don't have an answer for it immediately based on your planning and preparation, you have enough experience that you can craft a solution in the middle of the event. This is called improvisation. This is the thing that people lack the most. They have the A, B, C, D thinking and mentality part down, but the reality of the sport is that the smallest percentage of the time it's ever going to go according to plan. So those who have the ability to improvise, but it's skilled improvisation, they're the ones that find answers in the midst of the event, in the midst of the activity. They improvise. It's the flow state. It's the kind of thing that if you're always thinking, and planning in your training, the moves and the response happens faster than thought. That's why the ones that really inspire people, they do it like this, right? Examples: Barry Sanders, Michael Jordan, Saenchai, Prince Nassim, Allen Iverson, right? Most people know those names. And what were they all really skilled at doing? Maybe not so much in life away from the game, some of them, but in the game itself, in the vacuum of sport, they had the ability to improvise based on the skills that they had trained away, and then they could put them together to come up with answers in the midst, right? Like when Jordan's jumping and he moves around in the air and contorts himself and then throws up a layup. Things like that. Barry Sanders, with thought, right? With thinking, there's no way that in one of the clips where he spins off two separate people that he was able to see them. But in the midst, he was able to feel them and respond based on the stimulus. Because why? His mind was there, right? Adaptable mind, flow state. That's what all this stuff is about. How do you genuinely give yourself a toolbox set of skills that helps prepare you for the task at hand? And then you can imagine how training that way, this is how it ties into living life, how training that way will also make you mentally pliable in order to respond to the stimulus of the things that are happening to you in day-to-day life. And then you succeed in life as well, because very few people play pro sport. So how do you become a pro at life? Because life does the same thing, and it throws you curveballs, and every day the weather's different, and there's this and there's that, and there's, random emergencies that happen. How do you respond? That's what this is about. And that's what goes on in the training sessions, and that's what goes on in the app. You get motion data. You have things that are genuinely going to help you so that what? When you inevitably go into positions like this and like this and like that, you don't have to panic, because why? You spent time there before. No matter what, in sport and in life, something is going to take you out of position. So how do you respond? Do you crumple because you've never been there before? Or do you have the ability to find a solution and keep on moving?